Hey, it's Tansel. In this video, I speak with Dami Okedara, who is a young entrepreneur having achieved quite a lot in his life already. And I love having a chat with people who have an amazing mindset and have really cool things to share. So hopefully you enjoy this video. So let's go.
All right, Dami, man. It's been a while. What's happening?
It's been a long time, man. Things have been good. Just been really growing and focusing on the agency times. I think we first met in early 2019 at TEDx in Docklands. I was much younger back then, probably a lot more introverted. I'm still a bit introverted, but yeah, time's flown. Just been really focusing on primarily building my marketing agency. And then that spawned into other things like, of course, SaaS Central, which is a production company that's picked up attention by the likes of, Channel 9 and Vice Australia and some international attention, as well as some of the local events that we're running down in Melbourne. But the agency is kind of my main shtick. That's the thing that funds everything. If the agency breaks, then a lot of things break at the same time. How about yourself?
Man, it's awesome to have you on. Yeah, I've just been working on the old YouTube channel and trying to help people as best as I can with whatever skill that I have, which is
Mm,
mostly sort of memory and personal growth and things like that. But yeah, I was really interested in having a chat to you because I saw all your cool little videos on Facebook, and I'm like, I know this dude. He came up to me at my TEDx event, and we had a really cool chat. And I'm like, man, this guy, you're very young, but you seem really ambitious and motivated, and I still saw you doing, all these cool stuff. I'm like, man, I wonder how his journey's going. And then
yeah,
I did a little bit of a sort of background thing on you, and you're building communities and helping people out
yeah,
as well. So I thought this is something that people will want to hear more about as well, because there's a lot of people stuck out there at a young age. It's like, what do I do? Or how do I go about doing things? Or where do I start? And, what sort of level of effort do I need to have? And just looking at your journey, I'm sure, look, people can look at your journey and your videos on your YouTube channels and socials as well. But just going back to, when you were, I think it was 17, tell me about that and how you started everything and what your struggles were initially.
Also, registrations are now open to work with me one on one. So if you want to improve your memory, your mental performance, and learn anything faster than ever before, reach out below. I'll put the link below and you can get in touch. All right? I'll see you back in the video.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, in 2019 at that TEDx event, I was 19 years old. I was actually fresh out of a breakup as well. So I actually journaled a lot around that time about what kind of my mental processes were like. So at that stage, to backtrack a year before I was 19, I used to watch a lot of TED Talks online. So when I was in my final year of high school, if I wasn't going out to a party on Friday, then I would actually watch TED Talks to sleep. So I remember telling my now ex, one of my goals were I want to have a TED Talk, before 25 or before 30 or something like that. So as soon as we broke up, I just chucked myself into a ton of different spaces. I was playing basketball at a highish level at the time, but I got injured that year. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just try other stuff. I tried modeling. I went to the TEDx events. I met someone at the TEDx event that was doing a book launch. So I went to her book launch and I was like the only guy there. And for the first 3 to 6 months of 2019, I was just trying different things. I tried network marketing, MLMs. I tried everything. I was just being super open minded. And then I got an ad from Ty Lopez, who you guys have probably heard of before. And it's funny because I recently interviewed Ty. It's crazy how full circle everything comes. But so I saw one of his courses on YouTube. I got pitched one of his ads, the Here in My Garage one. And I went down the rabbit hole of, the internet marketing guys, Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, even Tony Robbins, who does personal development, I guess adjacent somewhat to what you're doing, but more memory. And I found his course after 2 hours of scoundering the internet for free in Reddit. Yes, because I didn't have any money. I was just a basketball athlete. Even the TEDx event, I think, which was maybe $100. I don't remember quite exactly. Like I remember that was a chunk of what I was making a month at that time. And I took all that I could from that course. And after coming back from my brother's basketball tournament in Sydney, the day after I hopped off that plane, I went to Wadden Street in Werribee, started door knocking, cold calling. I'm Dami, I'm a marketer. I couldn't even answer many questions below the surface because I didn't even know how to run Facebook at the time. I just knew how to post stuff. And after 3 months of zero results, I finally got my first client. Then I got two clients that I lost both of them at the end of 2019. But I was like, hold on, like, and this is probably what you're specializing in. I was like, there's a pattern of behavior that I had to get the first and second client. So I went to Starbucks with my big, well, not big, but my whiteboard in Hoppers Crossing, and I just planned out exactly how many inputs, how many calls, how many emails I'd have to do to get that result again. And then 3 months after just going into 2020, so from January 2020 to March, just before the Rona, I just scaled my agency. I actually got featured in the local Wyndham newspaper as the Facebook man because I started getting clients like Wyndham TV, the ex-mayor of Werribee, and I was just growing, growing, growing. And again, I probably was only 3 or 4 months of knowing what a Facebook ad was. And then, COVID came and I kind of had to start again from scratch, which was great because I was probably better at selling than marketing at that point. But yeah, now forward, 4.5 years, we worked with celebrities, politicians, still very much in the dogfight, but we've got employees, contractors, we've got a team spanning across Melbourne, Australia, Asia Pacific, Asia, and Dubai. And yeah, we've been able to do some cool stuff.
So tell me about the time. I'm really interested. You said something that sort of, I'm like, what? Hang on, what? 3 months of
Yeah.
what? Like trying to get work? Like, what were you doing? Like, for
Yeah.
3 months?
Yeah, let me break that down. So it's funny because I have three phones. I have one for content and I got one for like business, etc. I'm the one for personal life. One of the phones that I still have, I've still got notes from all those failures in that 3 month period where I had zero results. So what I was doing was I would I didn't have a suit that was appropriate at the time. So I'd wear my turtleneck and my dad's suit, and I would go to different shopping centers or suburbs that I knew maybe had like a higher income, so like Toorak, South Melbourne, or whatever. And I would just have my phone on record, like in my dad's blazer, and I'd walk into the cafe or walk into the retail store and say, "Hey, my name is Dami. Would you be the manager by any chance?" They'd say yes or no, and they'd go and get the manager. They'd say, "Listen, I'm a local marketer. I just want to grab 15 minutes of your time or attention so I can share with you what we're doing for X person that's in a similar industry, or just so I can show you how we can help, etc."
Mm.
And I would just set out a goal to go to a suburb for part of the day, just have a goal to talk to 50 business owners. And for those first 3 months, a lot of the time, it'll be 0 from 50, 1 from 50, 2 from 50. So the resilience I built from that in retrospect was excellent because that is, my opinion, what's required, especially when you're young, to create something from scratch and just bring it into the physical. So it was a lot of that. It was a lot of cold calling. I was terrible at cold calling, really, really bad. I remember one of my first Zoom calls that I had with a lead that I appointment set. My mom was in the other room listening to it, and I was super excited that I just took the call. And she was like, "Oh, like relax, like you weren't doing very well." But she was being honest, like because the mother's nature is to kind of protect, right? Um, yeah, so it was a lot of that, a lot of Zoom calls, appointment setting, cold calling, and just getting knocked back. Driving all the way to three suburbs in a day, speaking to maybe between 50 to 150 people. I was still at basketball athlete, so hitting the gym twice a day, coming home at 11 p.m. Parents saying, "How are you fitting uni into this? I'm worried about you, and you haven't had results for multiple months. Maybe you should focus on the MLM thing. At least there's a structure there, because they were just didn't know any better from a business sense." But yeah, it was a lot of that.
That's amazing. It's people look at the failures, obviously. I mean, you've gone through it, so you know what it's been like as your experience. But people look at the failures, hang on, you tried for 3 months and got zero. Why don't you do this or why don't you do that? But you've built up resilience. You actually did the thing that people are afraid to do, right? And then continuously, not just for 1 or 2 weeks, but you did it for 3 months, and you've
Mm.
learnt lessons out of that. And one of the things that I do in my coaching when I work with people is I have failure training, right? And the
Mm.
failure training is I give exercises for people to do, but the exercises are designed to make them fail every single time. Right.
Excellent.
And the reason for that is for them to take notes and analyze from the data of, okay, what's going on here? Why isn't this working? And every time they do a new exercise, yeah, they fix the old one, but something new comes up, right? So it builds up resilience, like you said. But in your case as well, you kept going for a certain period of time and you took notes and you learnt from them as well. So what was, I guess, one of the biggest learnings that you took from the 3 months that you went through?
Mm. Yeah, great question. Oof, many things, man. Um, if I was to pinpoint one thing, just the sheer amount of, so I think Alex Hormozy talks about this and a few other guys in the personal development NLP space. You have to pay off your ignorance debt and then you start getting paid. And I had a lot of, juvenile ignorance. I thought that, I could just be someone that knew a bit more than them. And if I had confidence that that would be enough to land, a client, I was also, to be fair, a bit more open minded to larger amounts of payment because I was also an athlete. With basketball, that's another story. I've definitely gotten knocked back many times because in my tween age years, between 12, 11, 12, 13, I was a chubby kid and, I kind of got a bit of bullying in year seven and I went from chubby to borderline anorexic. So that's a whole other story in itself. But in terms of kind of that mental pain tolerance, I'd already kind of explored that at a younger-ish age, which did help. But the business one was different. And it's different because it's social rejection from strangers, not just from people in school. Anyway, and adults as well. So the biggest thing that I took away was, yeah, it's going to take a lot longer than you think. I wanted to be a millionaire by 21. I'm 24 now. I may be on the track finally to have $1 million business, but not $1 million in profit. And I'm even grateful that I'm even able to say that now, but it took what? If I'm going to be 25 at the end of the year, it will have taken 4 years longer, right? To have gotten partially that kind of result. So it will take way longer than you think. But and your character, the second thing, if I was to add a second thing, your character is what will yield the results, not how skilled you think you are or how good of a person you think you are. It's purely your character. And by character, I'm talking about how competent are you as a person, how competent are you as a leader. When things get hard, do you cave in or do you rise? Because if you really want to make any kind of significant progression out of the norm, every time you have to pick rise. And it might not look like you rose in a short period of time. It might look like it took 12 months to recover from some sort of pitfall, etc. But you have to pick rise every time. And if you do that month after month, year after year, or week after week, or day after day, then it compounds. So that's what I would say. Those two things.
And that's really powerful too, because there's a couple of elements going here. One is the doing part, right? And one
Yeah.
is the saying parts. Like, what are you saying to yourself? When you are going through those difficult times, if you're constantly bringing yourself down, or if you're, fearing failure, which clearly you didn't fear the failure, you just went ahead and did stuff. And I'm guessing that, because you said you were playing basketball, you've got a bit of competitive edge in you
Yeah.
as well. And
Yeah.
that's always a good thing. I mean, I'm a memory athlete, so I used to always compete. And I think, even before then, we used to run around the block with my friends with a timer and say, who can run from here to here really quick? And, we used to always compete in some form or another. And I think that's helped me a lot throughout the journey as well. And it's almost like competing, you're playing games, you're gamifying.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can gamify something, then what happens instead of learning something, which is stressful, right? And stressful, really what it means is, learning people associate to stress and anxiety. And, even if they like the thing, it's like, to keep up with learning, say, a language or whatever, you might be
Yeah.
motivated for a certain period of time and then fall off the edge after, I don't know, months, because it takes too long. But if you gamify something, now you're playing a game. So instead of increasing
Mm.
cortisol in the brain, which is stress chemical, you're now
Mhm.
increasing dopamine, right? The neurotransmitter.
Yeah.
So now you want to keep playing the game because you're getting this feedback loop of, oh, I'm getting rewarded every time I level up, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a little kid, not when my son was little, right? It would have been about maybe 4 years old or something. We were playing Halo on the computer,
Classic game.
right?
Classic game.
Classic
Yeah.
Halo. And he put it on, the easy level. I'm like, come on, dude, what are you doing? What's this easy level business? So puts it up to hard. I'm like, dude, we're gonna go legendary. That was like the hardest
Nice.
level. So we went legendary,
Mhm.
right? And then 2 seconds in, we're getting shot down straight away. It's like, man, this is hard. right? My son's getting
Yeah.
frustrated. We're doing all we can, but 4 hours later, we figured it out. So
Mm,
what I'm trying to say is that, if you put yourself in those difficult positions, no one's going to put themselves in that hard position. But when
yep.
you do and you go through it so many times, you figure out a strategy or multiple
Yep.
strategies. So I'm guessing that's what you did, because here's the thing. People hate making phone calls. People hate facing people they don't want to face, let alone,
Yeah.
people that they do know. So you did not fear that. You went through the difficult scenarios and got
Yep.
a whole bunch of feedback for yourself over the years, not just in a few months, over the years, and then use that
Mm,
to build yourself up to a level where people think that you're an overnight success, but they don't
yeah.
know all the things that you've been through.
Absolutely. No, you've hit the nail on the head. And no, the Halo comparison or example is so true. I think a lot of mental resilience is just understanding what your reward is, like you said. So, for example, for you, it was, because you're competitive as well and you're a strategist, it was being able to prove to yourself that you could master the legendary level of that, Halo game, that level of difficulty. For others, it might be if they complete, the X amount of phone calls in a day. We had a consulting client where that was something that they were scared of and they were in the NDIS sector. I was like, look, every 10 phone calls, just every 10 phone calls, and you just have to make 30 in a day, give yourself some sort of reward. So for me, I'm a foodie, right? Former fat kid, right? So on weekends, I know as long as we either got the amount of new clients that we needed that week, or like I at least put the necessary inputs that we needed for the week as a team, I get to eat X amount of cookies that day, right? On the weekend. Other ways you could do it is going for a brisk walk, in my situation, 50 or 100 calls going for a brisk walk or after taking 10 demos, whatever. So having some sort of reward to tie to the behavior, I think creates, again, like that associative anchor, which just makes it easier for you to gamify results. Otherwise, yeah, it just seems so arduous and overwhelming because, life can be a bit difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and I love how you've done that, because now that sort of boosted you, and you've got a lot of interest, it seems, as well. So it's like, man, life is amazing. I can use it to anchor to
Yeah.
this, to that, to that, to that, instead of just seeing one thing. Because in business, sometimes people just see the one thing, I need to be able to do this, or they just see the money aspect, I need to make more money, 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 money. It's like, hang on, there's so many other factors in play here. Fix your mindset, fix your character. What are you
Yes.
really trying to do? How are you being valuable? Before you said you're open-minded. I mean,
Mm,
that's an amazing thing to have. It's not just about ego, it's about learning, being open to
yes.
learning as well. And I found with myself that initially it was like, no, no, my way is the best way type of things. And then that didn't get me anywhere. And as I grew myself and then I got into memory, it's like, wow, I'm reading all these books and it's opening my mind. And now I want to take from, other people and friends and colleagues. And it's like, man, there is no competition. The only competition is with yourself. Like how many times you can get out, how many times you can work on yourself rather than,
Mm,
just look at an end result. So I like that aspect that you said, when you're talking about building yourself up and being open-minded.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Like, yeah, open-mindedness, especially if it's any sort of new domain, whether it's sports, whether it's business, you know, um, as they say in some, spiritual texts, I think it's ego or pride comes before the fall. And that is so true. I think you should have kind of that duality because most of human existence is a paradox. You have to have a large enough ego that you should also be able to have no ego so you can actually embrace that large ego. So if you want to actually build something that makes you feel powerful, then you actually have to have ego depth so you can soak up enough random knowledge that you can then kind of put together like a Tetris or like a puzzle to then create a kind of, piece. So you kind of have to have both, but you have to be super open-minded, 100%.
Yeah, and I see it as the value. What sort of value? Oh, there's a bit of sun hitting. I'll see if I can. Yeah, there we go.
You lock, there you
I
go.
got it. Yeah, my big head's in the way. There you go. The ego blocked out
I
the
think I got a
sun.
bigger forehead, man. You're fine, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I remember when I saw you. This was years ago at TEDx. You look like someone that was about to take on the world. I'm like, man, this dude, I mean, you're quite a big figure too. I mean, I'm not, small, but I'm like, this dude's got it. Because that event was amazing. I mean, so many positive vibes, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And
well,
then just seeing you do what you do, I'm like, yeah, he's done it. Like, why am I not surprised? So tell me about I mean, you said you work with some amazing people as well. What's it like, working with those people? And it's not so much about the person, but you trying to give as much value to them. What's
yeah.
that like?
Yeah, so it's interesting because every day a new level of leadership is demanded from me, and I like that responsibility. Um, it's it's interesting because once I started actually having to pay for people that have their own salary, not just a contractor that might be getting paid $100 a month, but someone where in order for them to get a mortgage or a house, like I need to give some sort of email or signature to show that yes, that is their actually annual salary and they are likely to stay here for another 12 months, etc. That's when I started realizing, like, wow, like if I go out super late on a Saturday or a Sunday, no matter how I feel, I must actually be mentally prepared to really provide for these people because they rely on me. So it's been fun. It's been challenging. I'm 24. So I kind of make sure to embrace that kind of age that I am, on weekends to kind of have fun. And then Monday to Friday is just kind of making sure that I am in many ways, just someone that people can, if they're having a bad day, if they're sick, I can kind of pick up their slack and get back into the weeds of things. But it's challenging, especially with, I guess, my personal goals for particularly the agency. Part of what we focus on is building mega communities. So that's a group of high intent buyers, customers, clients, people, participants, fans that want to work with the business owner and then the business. So when we're serving clients, instead of just kind of doing their marketing, our focus is how can we actually make sure that whether they stay with us for 6 or 12 months, whatever, they actually have some sort of organism that can keep on growing without us. So that's created a kind of a level of creativity that I've had to tap into because instead of me thinking of just, we're going to run their Facebook ads, it's more, all right, so if they're, for example, in wealth consulting, how can we make sure that they're able to grow on Facebook and TikTok, but they also know how to run parts of it themselves? That way, if someone on their team gets sick, they know, okay, this video of the owner with talking with the whiteboard, or this video of the owner walking into the property and explaining how amazing it is and why this is such a great fit for XYZ demographic, why that works for them and not necessarily the competitor that just seemingly runs Google ads. That's kind of been the thing that I've been focusing on, kind of changing the business owner's psychology instead of just coming in, doing their marketing for 3 months and then kind of churn and burn them. Because I think a lot of, especially at least service-based providers that have to go through that, that was a lot of what I was going through probably up to about 22 and a half. And then what kind of helped us get bigger clientele, we've worked with, franchises in Melbourne. Some of them are, more notable than others. Is kind of being able to kind of shift their psychology into thinking, humans are tribal. Before technology, it was caves, and you had a group of I think 1 to 300 people that you knew you could trust and survive with. All marketing is an exaggeration of communication. So if I can get them to really think in that tribalistic way, and then use marketing as kind of the bridge to do that, then that's kind of my job. So I've been playing marketer, but also kind of psychologist, and that's every day kind of forced me to become a little bit more aware of my deficiencies and how to make sure that my deficiencies don't reflect onto their results or their accounts. And that's kind of been the personal development side for me.
And I love the people connection side, building communities. Because doing that, you're building a tribe, you're building people who believe, they're building people who trust, and it's not just
Yes.
a transaction. People don't want a transaction these days. People want to believe. People want to work with people they love, and what you're doing, it's not just from what I can hear, it's not just a simple transaction. You're building stories, telling stories.
Yes.
And that's the reason why I wanted to speak to you, because that storytelling component, that's the key skill in memory training as well.
Oh, wow.
And how memory works is through stories, right? When we memorize numbers, for example, right? Let's say the numbers 0578292 whatever, right? Doesn't make any sense, right? So what we do is for every digit number, we have a letter assigned. So zero is an S or Z, One is a T or D, two is an N, three is an M, and so on. And then what we do is where we pair the digits up together. So one and two will be T and N. It could be
Mhm.
Tansel, for example, right? Or, tennis or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
Dami could be one and three, like D and M, right? And so on.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we connect the words together into a story, right? So, Tansel 1, 2, and Dami 1 and 3 got together for, a video, which is 8 and
Mm.
1, right? So that's 1, 2, 1, 3, 8, 1. There's that digit number, right? We memorized
Wow.
thousands of them, right? And this was back in 2010. I memorized the Yellow Pages phone book, 20,000 digits of numbers using this system, right?
Wow.
But
Sheesh.
how it works is we don't just look at the numbers and memorize them like that. We make stories up. And essentially, memory trainers, memory experts, anyone in memory is essentially a glorified storyteller. That's what we do. That's our job, right? So
Mm.
once we understand storytelling, then you understand how it works in marketing and connecting with people because their story is what connects with people.
Mm.
So, and what you mentioned as well is like you're working with all those amazing people. You're bringing essentially stories and narratives together for
Mm.
either the business's story or the story they want people to hear, their case studies, all these sort of things that come together and build a
Yeah.
unique brand. And I think I was watching one of your videos, you're talking about branding as well. And that's what it is, being memorable. How do you connect
Yeah.
that story? And if you've got a story, now you're unique. You're one of,
Yes.
7, 8 billion,
Yes.
whatever there is. But if you're trying to
Mhm.
be like someone else, that's it. You can't, it doesn't work. That
No, it
story
does
is
not.
not unique. So, I love that aspect of what you're doing. And I think one of the videos that you had, if people are watching, please check Dami's YouTube out. Come on. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're talking about different social mediums and how,
Yes.
reels go really well on, say, Facebook and, posts and stuff. This isn't all just do this, do that. This is all based on connection and
Yeah.
storytelling. So tell me about that in relation to your work when you're building communities. How much of an impact storytelling has with what you're doing?
Denzel, everything you said is 100% true. Humans receive information best through stories. So, for example, when it comes to some of our more corporate accounts that might use LinkedIn, let's just say they're in the MDAS, right? What we'll do is we'll get them, and I do this as well, to have like a sharp hook on the top sentence. And like, for example, let's just say, they're like, still, oh, actually, I'll make it an easier example for your audience. Let's just say they're a politician. Cut the trees down. And then people are like, what is this person talking about? And they have to click see more. And then the person can talk about the history of, trees being planted in that area, and how long they've been there and which schools ended up using that same, process to build trees, etc. And, all the kids that were raised, the pictures of the kids to adults. Now what they've done is they've basically granted permission mentally to get someone's attention. And if you have someone's attention, you can now take them all the way through the narrative at the end to some sort of call to action or to influence them to make some sort of decision that they actually want to make because they're invested into your story. So when it comes to what we do, or even what I do with my other businesses like my production company, Kusar, etc., is we make sure that there is some element of story in everything. So some sort of sharp hook or sharp statement, and then a bridge that explains part of it in some sort of numerical sequence, which is very interesting that you said you attach letters to numbers because in a more succinct way, I guess we do that same thing. So we'll have the 3 steps to do what, or the 7 steps to do this, or the one thing, etc. And usually it's 1, 3s, 5s, and 7s. I forgot where I read this book from, but even if you look at
The odd
different stock
numbers.
market,
Yeah.
yes, yes. You already know. You know this way more than myself. Like, when it comes to even stocks or even cryptocurrency, to quickly divert, a lot of candlesticks and charts, like there'll be movement every 1, 3, 5, or 7 sticks. So it's really interesting, even when it comes to price. So we will have the hook or the bold statement, then have the 3 steps, and then have a reiteration of all of the above, and then ask them to, make a decision that they may not feel is plausible to them. So everything is stories, even when I'm talking on my videos or when I'm doing like a really long VSL, which stands for video sales letter. It's really just a more specific breakdown of my story. When I'm actually doing demos or presentations to clients, and to be honest, this is what took us from kind of a solopreneur business where it was kind of, I was just the one person, one man band, to now like a team, what we're doing, what we at least made back in 2022, our first, let's just say 6 figures in a year, is I would actually start the first 5 minutes of the presentation to explain what's to come. And then first of all, a bit about me. And I'll have pictures of me when I was 21 and I just moved out of my parents' house and COVID happened. I lost all of my clients because of, COVID. And I've got pictures of my bedroom and my whiteboard and the vision board and, the amount of money that I lost and the clients that we lost. And then like the jobs that I would work and then the progression and the injuries. Then I think I even had a picture of me at TEDx, ironically, just crazy. And then where I am now, and I've got Quasar, which has done like 1 billion views online, which is a media company. So it's pretty much all of it is stories, and where the agency's going and what it's done. So I start with that now, and then I go into our services. And that's, like you said, allowed people to want to work with Dami, not just the Facebook ads expert, because that's one of a dozen instead of one of one.
Mm. And that's a beautiful thing because that storytelling component, man. You said you're a psychologist before. It's like you have to be all these things first, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you sort of start to scale up once you've got things sorted out and get the people right and all of that. Yeah, of course, if you have money at the start, you can hire all these people. But the challenge is, how do you start with zero? Like you said,
Yeah.
that was the challenging part, even getting to a TEDx. So you had to go out and do all the hard work and as you're doing that, what's narratives, what stories you're telling yourself as well? Because,
Oh yeah.
leaders are the ones that have visions, right? If you don't have a vision, well, like where are you leading yourself to, right? So you actually
Mm.
have to have a vision. You can't, move forward without one. It's like, where are you moving to? So unless you have a mission, that's a bit different, but you still have to have
Mm.
something to work towards. And that's what you're doing, right? And getting back to, building stories and, you mentioned the numbers, all that sort of stuff. It's part of a psychology out there that's reaching
Mm.
people. That's connecting because you can't just write a mishmash story on, say, LinkedIn. Because
No.
what will happen, people read the first sentence, they'll look at all this text and be overwhelmed, right? That's why we
Yeah.
skip things like terms and conditions because there's just a whole bunch of text, right? If it
Yeah.
was just one sentence, but 100 pages, people will more likely read that, right? Big bold letters, one sentence and 100 times than just a mishmash of, things like that. So you've had to figure
Correct.
out, learn, make mistakes, analyze things and just keep moving forward as well. So amazing stuff. And you've built a company. Now you've got teams, you're managing people. So
Yeah.
you're doing all that sort of stuff. So what's on the horizon for you next? Because you've achieved sort of to a point where it's like, okay, now I'm at that level where I've got to push forward now. So what's next for you?
To be honest, it's funny you ask this. My main goal for this year is actually to be more boring. And here's what I mean by that. Again, bold statement, breakdown. Um, Last year, particularly with my other business, my production company, Quasar, we garnered a lot of attention, like a lot of attention at the Asia Pacific level. So basically, what Quasar is and its storyline or its brand ethos is the power of human potential. And that's kind of it's probably one of the biggest or fastest growing Gen Z media companies. So we've made a lot of, you know, content like real life Tinder swiping or controversial things like Australians versus Andrew Tate or Christians versus LGBTQ plus in Gold Coast. So really topical things that Australians might want to discuss, but perhaps haven't taken that leap of faith to discuss yet. We've been able to do that. So last year there was a fair bit of traveling required for that, especially in Australia. So we went to Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast. This year we went to New Zealand, and then in end of next month I'm in Bali recording season 5 for that. After that, I actually don't want to travel at all. I just want to sit down and, to be honest, build up our sales guys in my marketing agency, and kind of just get them solid and get their confidence up a bit more. So my main focus is to be more boring. So to build the agency just in a more monotonous way, doing more of the inputs that have gotten us to where we are and where we're going. My main goal is to get to between 1 to 300 clients on, I guess, some sort of monthly recurring investment. Because if they are doing that, then we're able to also kind of serve them in kind of a more, I guess, how would I define it? More kind of personalized way. Because we do a lot of kind of projects or one-offs, but a bulk of our clients are on the monthly recurring, and they kind of get the most results from us. So that's the agency side of things, anywhere between 1 to 300 clients by the end of the year. And then for Quasar, to be honest, just kind of crafting, ironically, kind of that story. So we've got a lot of influencers of different age brackets between 18 to 35, 40 that have appeared in our show for various reasons. And now that we've started to get attention from some of the bigger media companies in Australia, we want to make sure that we are being really inclusive with Quasar. So making sure that we had an episode last year just before the referendum, and that episode was called "Do All Aboriginals Think the Same?" The timing for that video going out was fantastic. Viewership wise, it didn't get as many views as the Tinder video that got like 1 million views after it went viral. But even with the 2 or 5,000 people that watched it, we felt that that was something that group of people really appreciated having a voice on. And whilst it was daunting for at the time a 23-year-old myself to be doing, because you obviously don't want to step on too many toes, you want to make sure the question's fair. I had to do research for something that I was not very familiar with, but being able to kind of lend the opportunity to them to speak was great. So kind of just becoming better, I guess, as a creative director, and getting more voices involved is my goal for that. But apart from that, becoming a better leader, hiring better people that are better than me at sales or management, getting another operations manager involved, hopefully sometime in early Q4. That's my goal, to be more boring and do more of the monotonous stuff.
I guess this is going to be one of my coaching questions that I have. What's your biggest challenge now, if I ask?
Yeah, absolutely. So majority of our clients in my agency probably were hospitality. So a lot of the biggest events and nightclubs, restaurants, a lot of the biggest restaurants in Melbourne either are or have been our clients. Because of the cost of living, we probably lost in that division of our agency probably 15% because of cost of living. And the irony is, and this is the good thing about having that relationship, a lot of them actually still give us great reviews. So if you actually go to our website, there's video reviews saying, "I love Dami client W." So it's not so much a result thing, it's more their cost of goods. Now they might have to sell, for example, kebab for $17 instead of $22. So it's that kind of thing. So we started to readjust focus to more service-based businesses that are just strictly services. So for example, NDIS, consulting, now a bit of e-commerce as well. HVAC, we have a lot of HVAC guys, junk removal, commercial cleaning all around Australia. So we started to just focus more on the niches that I guess are less affected, because everyone's affected, but less affected by the cost of living, instead of just kind of going for the home run industries that we've got, a gazillion case studies for. So that's, I guess, our biggest bottleneck. The second one in the agency would be starting to bridge away from just service providers to more consulting. So because of the breadth of experience that we have, especially me now running this company for 5 years, we now can teach a lot more than just marketing and sales. We can teach now more on virality, on personal branding, on strategic acquisition. For example, we work with franchises, so we understand the difference between franchising and licensing. To kind of disclose some, slightly confidential information to yourself, one of the goals with my production company is for us to eventually turn it into a licensing media company, kind of like if you look at a Complex or a BuzzFeed. So I have a lot of business acumen, not just marketing. So kind of growing away slowly from marketing agency into consultancy. That's, I guess, the challenge, because I don't know what I don't know. So that's the main two things for our agency at the moment.
That's great, because it gives you a lot more stuff to work on as well while you're being bored.
That's rarely bored, I can tell you that. My phone will always go up, even if I wake up at 5 a.m. and there's 15 notifications, So.
Oh, dude, that's an interesting goal to have. I want to be more bored. I remember telling one of my clients that my goal was to earn under 6 figures, less than 6 figures. That was my goal. And she's like, "What?
Wow.
What do you mean?" And she's like, you freaked her out. But the intention there was, like everything else sort of paid off. So I don't have to earn as much, and just service the people that I want to service. So it is difficult, because the more you help people, the more you get out there naturally anyway. So like once we release pressure off ourselves, right, it's like let go. It's like the David Hawkins. Well, once you sort of let go of stuff, and then you just in a natural being, magic can happen as well. Sometimes we put too much stress on ourselves, and that pressure and stress builds up so much that we forget about all the other things, or it's just not even on our mind. So, that's what, like, we're here on a public holiday now. Like we could be out being bored on the beach, or not in this weather, but it's like people watching don't know, right? So
Yeah,
we could be doing other things, but we're making a video for people to say, you know what? Here's Dami. This is his story. Here's what you can at least learn from it, And a lot of people watching now, like imagine there's a 17-year-old watching now, right?
mm,
Thinking, I need to make some money, or I've got a business idea, or how do I get started? What advice would you give that young person trying to start off?
yeah. Be open-minded. You got to try a lot of things. I don't want to. I think what happens is a lot of people, once they have some sort of momentum, they accidentally give disingenuous advice because they're thinking of what they're doing now, what they were not what they were doing before. So at the stage I'm at, I'm open-minded, but I have to time block times of my week to be open-minded, and then the other parts of the week I just need to be very focused. But at 17, be open-minded. I would actually definitely invest into some sort of mentoring. So, quick plug for you, Tanzil. Like if you're 17, memory is obviously super crucial. Being able to remember people's names when you meet them at networking events, being able to, you can remember clients, issues and being able to solve them and have some sort of proof of concept. I think having a coach, whether it's investing into Tanzil, whether it's watching a YouTube event or whatever, is really important. That's something that I probably would have done a little bit earlier if I could have done it. So yeah, coaching and being open-minded, and they sound really simple, but simple also wins. You don't want to overcomplicate things because too much friction.
Yeah, I love that because, growing up, my parents always had a fish and chip shop, Milk Bar, right? And
Oh
I
wow.
grew up ever since I was, what, 6, 7 years old, working and serving customers. And I would absolutely hate it, because I was sort of this introverted dude. But growing up, you see your parents serving customers. And eventually, when you get a bit older, you start serving and getting used to talking with people. And then I did
Yeah.
business management at school, and it talked a lot about people connection and communication skills. And I thought, wow, this is something I got to work on myself. And then I implemented directly because I was in the business, right? Working.
Mm.
So yeah, just building up the like you were doing, the capacity to talk to people, to go out
Yep.
there, not be afraid, absolutely not be afraid, because what's the worst case scenario? They're going to reject you. Well, then move along, right, to the
Yes.
next person. So really the challenge out there for most people, no matter what age, is you're fighting against yourself and the stories you
Yep.
create in your brain, right? And you got over that by just you just smashed it out, man. You just kept going, more and more. You got more ideas, and I think you probably got more excited about the potential that you can have rather than the failures that could happen, right?
Mm.
So I think this is where the storytelling component comes in, is that if you want to move somewhere, tell yourself some amazing stories about,
Mm.
what can happen. Now, a lot of people don't do this, and the reason why is that we're trying to be safe. It's like an evolutionary thing. Would rather be disappointed than, like by failure than,
Mm.
pretend we're winning something and then fail and things will be a lot worse. Right. So I kind of get that. But the narrative built in yourself and seeing
Mm.
other people, and it's like, you know what, I can do that too. That must have been really burning in you when you were young, to be able to push you to
Mm.
this point as well.
100%. And I definitely agree. Not enough people are specific with the stories they tell themselves. It wasn't until I was from about 19 to 22, I would voice record affirmations, and I've tried all those. I would voice record up to 100 affirmations for the year upcoming of the things that I wanted to be. Dami is resourceful. Dami is extremely confident. I'm talking about even personal things. Dami is extremely good with women, like
Mm,
extremely specific things. And it's funny, over time, you just start to, because your subconscious becomes your conscious. I would just start to adopt those traits to the point where probably start of 2023, I never really, not never, I haven't really had to record those affirmations anymore because I just have such, I guess, conviction in Dami's character. When
mm,
things go really, really wrong, which they do, by the way, because business, it's always, a bit up and down. Um, I don't get as, I guess, stressed anymore because I just have that default character where if someone could solve it, it would be Dami. Therefore, solve it, right? So telling the story to yourself are really important. Every year, I also have a central theme. That's something that I still do today. So, in 2019, I think it was when I went to the TEDx stuff and stuff like that. It was step into your greatness. So that was 2021. Then 2021, it was mastering self, something like that, just a central phrase. Then 2022, it was exploring boundless mastery. You can see I still remember all of this
Mm.
very potently. And then last year it was dominion, and then this year it's sweep. And each of those words or phrases have certain connotations to myself. And yeah, those things go a long, long way when your back's against the wall or you're feeling doubtful. And you just keep bridging those stories together. And over a decade, especially if you have a memory following Tansel's advice, you can have a really beautiful kind of decade worth of stories that helps you progress to where you are. And I guess that's what I'm striving for.
Yeah, I've been doing this for, about the same age as you are now. So,
That's
I'm
insane.
double your age, dude. That's how long I've been doing it for. But essentially, there was, and I was young. I was competing in competitions, and I thought I'd get a coach. And one of my friends was doing coaching, so he gave me a bit of a discount, which was, nice of him. So we had a session,
Yeah.
and he said one thing that absolutely resonated, and it's amazing what you can get just from one meeting with someone. It's
Mm-hmm.
insane, right? And what he said was, he told me about the story of Michael Jordan, and you know this probably as a basketballer, right? He said when Michael Jordan would go out there, he said, "I'm not here to compete. I'm here to dominate." And that absolutely blew my mind. I'm like, hang on, what am I doing trying to compete? I'm going to destroy these
Mm,
guys. So I went
absolutely.
in and I won for every year I entered, I won. So 4 years straight, I won. Whereas
Insane.
before that, I was trying for 6 years and I could not win a memory competition, right?
6 years.
6 years I tried. I even came last one year. I was going for records, but still, I came last. And I thought, you know what? Something's got to give, something's got to change. And yeah, it wasn't just that saying, but because I had that mindset of domination, now all my actions and thoughts were completely different. I trained differently, I'd eat differently, I'd do all these things that were in line for domination, not just to compete, right?
Mm,
So that totally put me in, and in the competitions too, when I'd won, I'd pretty much double the next person's score who came second. So it wasn't
that's
even
crazy.
a competition. It was like, you know what, I'm going to
You
go in and
smoked them. You
destroy.
just.
1 year I felt bad though because one of the years I think it was like what, the third time that I won or before then.
Mhm.
I gave a copy of my book to all the competitors, and I think it mentally put them off. So but it was meant to be just a nice gesture. But silly me, I
Yeah.
didn't think I must have been so naive. I didn't think it was going to put people off. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it did. I was just playing around. But yeah, that's like, be so good that, that you just go and dominate. So that was a mindset. Again, you can think domination, you may not dominate, but it may still help you win,
Mm,
right? With whatever you want to do. It's not, you
absolutely.
don't have to be the best at everything. You just have to be able to do what you want to be able to do, and
Absolutely.
just like you
Absolutely.
said, that story you tell yourself is that's the make or break. I put something on my Instagram today, a quote from Marilyn Monroe, and it said, "The sky is not the limit, your mind is."
Hmm.
It's like, man, that
Jeez.
is so true. We say, "Oh yeah, sky's the limit," but you know what? What's big, greater than the sky, greater than everything else in the world? Your mind. And once you
Hmm.
know how to use it, man, you've got so much power just from watching one video or just getting one saying, you can change your life. So I'm hoping that, for the people that do watch this video, they'll get something massive from it. And I'm sure they'll get something massive from, all your videos and connections as well. So I really do appreciate your time, man. Before I do let you go, anything else you want to sort of shout out, all the things that you're up to and, how people can get in touch, all of that.
Yeah, sure. Things that I guess if you want to reach out, just find me at Dami Okedara on Instagram, Dami.Okedara. If you want to learn more about our agency, just type up Clientele Boosters on Google, on YouTube, on Instagram. We're pretty omnipresent. If you like watching cool Gen Z leaning or controversial content, then just type up Quasar, so Quasar Central, Quasar Central, Quasar Central. Um, and yeah, definitely check out Townsville's stuff. I've been watching them silently throughout my early 20s on Facebook. and just massive inspiration to have done what you have done. I don't think people understand the level of, and to you, it's, I guess, habitual, but the level of difficulty it takes to be able to outperform those many or that many people that consistently is extravagant, and it takes a lot of detail and focus. So, yeah, congrats to you as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I wish it was habitual. It's always a struggle. Like I don't like I've got over like close to 300 YouTube videos, but every single one is a struggle, right? It's just like making the phone calls. You don't want to do it, but you have to do it, because at the end of it, people are going to benefit from it. And that's the greater story that I tell myself. Like I could be the worst communicator. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Why? Because I know
That's
that's
it.
whatever we talk about, it's going to help people regardless. And for
100%.
me, that is the best thing that can happen. So I really do appreciate your time. I'll put all those links to, your Instagram and the channels as well in the description, because I think, people won't be able to just pause it and, search for it. So it'll be easy for them to connect with you there as well. I really appreciate you jumping on, a public holiday as well. So it just shows, the effort and the endeavor and, commitment you have to, helping people. So really appreciate what you're doing with, clientele boosters and everything, that you're up to. And thank you so much for your time again.
Tanzo, it's a pleasure. Thank you as well.
Thanks, man.